It's Tuesday, May 12th, 2015. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Cordial Minuet, real money gambling. Let's do this. Oh yeah, and we're finally actually for real back without any foreseeable hiatuses for a long time.
So you're not going to go on another business trip for like a week?
Well, no, so my next trip that's in any way substantial is Kineticon.
Wow.
And then after that is Singapore, Sydney, PAX Prime, PAX Dev, that Kaifu lecture that I'm giving in Portland right after PAX, and London again.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all in like August, September, so we got some time. So Geeknights is finally back, and being back from Hong Kong, maybe Thursday we should do a show on Hong Kong. I'll save it all. I'll describe Hong Kong for 40 minutes or so.
I've seen a lot of Hong Kong on YouTube and whatnot.
Yeah, you know what? All I'll say now is that...
And also movies.
If you have a stereotype...
Which is probably less accurate.
If you have a stereotype of Hong Kong based primarily on like Asian cinema, if you go to Hong Kong, you will know your way around and you'll feel like you're just in those movies. Hong Kong is so close to every stereotype I had about it that it was kind of shocking. I fucking love Hong Kong.
Mm.
So yeah, I got pictures
move there,
and everything.
Marry it.
So everyone smart there went out of their way to remind me, yeah, but Hong Kong's ruined. China's going to completely fuck it over. We're all like ready to leave as soon as they finally complete fucking it. Everyone there I talked to said something to the effect of, I wish Britain had gone to war rather than turn Hong Kong over to China.
Wow.
Like, people really don't want China. And most of these people are ethnically Chinese, but culturally Hong Kongese. Hong Kongese culture is closer to New York City culture than it is to mainland China culture.
I get that feeling.
In fact, you know what? New York City culture is closer to Hong Kong than it is to like upstate New York culture. And the most fucked up thing, so I was staying at this super sweet hotel, like right in LKF. I keep saying LFK, like looking, but it's LKF. Lai Kwang. I can't. Everyone I met there who didn't like grow up speaking a variant of Chinese can't, like, they know nouns, but they cannot speak Chinese. They have all tried for many, many years to learn Cantonese and just can't speak it, but they know all the nouns mostly to name places. But anyway, so I'm in this LKF area and I'm in this awesome hotel.
I thought you were saving this for Thursday.
No, this is one little bit because, you know, the New York thing. So I'm walking like in the lobby, like across, there's like this glass door to the outside, and I walk past it and I did what can only be described as a comedy movie, like overly dramatic, overacted double take. As I stop, shake my head, walk backward, and look out, and sure enough, I see the entrance to like the Prince Street NR station. There is this completely legit New York City subway station sign, complete with like the green, like, you know, that green painted and everything.
Oh, is it like a bar?
Yeah, it's like the entrance to a bar and it's just there. My brain was fucked up by that the whole time I was there. Like every time I saw it, my brain was like, oh, I'll just take the subway. No, you can't take the subway.
That bar will not take you to your house. Though if you get drunk there, your brain might go to your house.
But yeah, so I'll talk about Hong Kong coming up in the future. So in the news, now that we're back from the hiatus, and there's lots of gaming news. We're not going to talk about Kojima or PT
because we don't know enough about what's going on yet. We're waiting for the whole story to finish, and then boom.
Yeah, in fact, the most interesting news I can find is that an insider made a YouTube video kind of talking about it.
And they made a DMCA request to pull it down.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, this is...
Such drama, wow.
And this is in the backdrop
This is the most drama in video game ever.
And remember, the backdrop of this crazy drama is multiple famous and for real important Japanese gaming visionaries, all in a relatively short span of time, quitting, leaving, or variously kickstarting and basically making the games they want to make.
More on that soon.
Yeah, so...
But I do want to point out, this Kojima thing, this is going to be... If you're not paying attention to this is epic gaming history news, right? Like, there's certain things in gaming history that are big moments, like
Square, when Square gave Nintendo the finger and put Final Fantasy on the PlayStation.
Right.
Like, think about how much the world changed.
Like, if you were making a timeline of video game, history, there would be many things on that timeline. Kojima fired by Konami is on the list of things that would make it to the timeline that when it was zoomed way out.
We don't even 100% know if we don't know.
Pretty
really.
Sure. We're going to find out, which is why we're not going into any details until we're 100% sure.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I guess you got some news related to this, to this topic at least.
Sure. So Koji Igarashi, a Japanese game developing person who you may or may not have heard of, he is a dude who has worked on many, many Vania games.
Oh, one of my favorite kinds of games.
Right. He was like the co-director on Symphony of the Night, and then he sort of was the number one person pushing that genre and working on other games like that for many, many years. So many of the things you like about those types of games are a result of this man's work. So apparently, the big game companies in Japan don't want to make those kind of games. But he recognizes that, hey, people want to play these kind of games. So he's kickstarting one called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Man likes blood.
Oh, so yeah. It's already raised like $700,000.
I kicked it when it was still in the hundreds.
Yep.
Because Luke Crane, who's in charge of gaming at Kickstarter, tweeted it immediately as soon as it.
Yep.
And his tweet was so I didn't realize what it was. He was just like, whip.
You want to know how
his tweet was whip link, and I clicked on it, and I'm like, oh, Castlevania, that explains the whipping. And then I watched the video, and then while I was watching the video, I gave them money.
Yep. When I didn't even watch the video, I scrolled down on the Kickstarter and I saw the concept art, and I was like, So
what is a Kickstarter?
But a miserable pile of Rim spends 40 hours playing this game, and then Matt 100%.
It's only $28 to get a digital copy.
110% it in the Upside Down Castle.
Yeah, I gave $28 just to get the game.
That's what I gave because I don't need physical goods.
I don't need any of this other garbage.
Someone already backed it at the $5,000 level.
Yeah, listen, even if you don't want to play this game, if you don't want to play it, don't Kickstart it, right? But come and watch the video. It is one of the excellent Kickstarter videos of all time. The video was helped made by Two Player Productions, who used to do videos for Penny Arcade.
I mean, pretty much, in my opinion, Symphony of the Night #1, Dawn of Sorrow #2. If anything's gonna dethrone one of those games, it's gonna be this. I mean, I don't know. Could suck. He might fuck it up, but
right.
I'm optimistic.
Yeah, but one thing that our good friend Daryl Surratt pointed out, right? Let me find his tweet.
I think I know which tweet you're about to say because I favorited that tweet because I was gonna bring it up.
Thing about Kickstarter is the big money demand isn't genre driven; it's previously established creator driven.
Whoa! Except no, that's not true. A lot of bullshit gets a ton of money because it's purely genre driven.
That is true. However, he is true in the case of this one thing because if you look, there have been a ton of Vania-like, Metroidvania genre indie games out in recent years. We go to PAX, you see 10 of these things, right?
Yeah, and they're all pretty mediocre.
They're all kind of mad. That's why that they're not raking in big money on Kickstarter. Is not because of it's not the genre, it's not the creator, it's the quality. And it just so happens that someone who's made, and been the producer director of so many of these is going to be able to deliver on the quality. If people had the confidence that one of these crappy indie ones was going to be any good, it would also make a bunch of money. But without the creator doesn't, not necessarily the fact that their name brings the money, is that their name is a somewhat insurance on the quality that brings the money. Right?
Yeah, if it sucks, you've got a Virtual Boy. Congratulations. You can bitch about it and it's going to be hilarious.
So that's what's going on there.
I'm pretty invested in this game already. The problem is now I gotta wait for the game. I guess it's been so long. Maybe I should just play all the DS ones again. I've probably forgotten them by this point.
I still didn't beat those GBA ones.
Oh yeah, forgot all about those.
There's quite a few of them.
Thing is, I think DS is just the best one because of how freaking long it is.
Yeah, well, longer the better.
Yeah. I mean, not often will I tolerate the 80 hours of game, but with a Vania that's good, I'll tolerate a lot. I'll do a lot of things that I would not do in
Just
another
play
kind of
Symphony
game.
of the Night again.
Yeah.
Play Super Metroid again.
Yeah.
Again.
This is why with anime, with video games, with books, with everything, it's real easy to like start watching. It's like start playing a modern indie game, get about a couple hours in, and then say, wow, this kind of reminds me of Half-Life 2. Why don't I just go play Half-Life 2 again?
That sounds like a good idea.
Actually, I started playing Half-Life 2 again kind of recently, just randomly.
Why not?
So in other news, remember
Mr. Friedman.
when Good Old Games recently released X-Wing and TIE Fighter?
Yeah, I think that was around the last time we did a Geeknights episode, and that was probably our news.
And that was huge news because X-Wing, whatever, it's
These
not
are
a good game.
games that are in a genre that is truly dead.
And while X-Wing's not a
Like-
good game, really, like to be honest, TIE Fighter might have been it was one of the best PC games ever made. Like that is a fact that is not in dispute. Never forget that TIE Fighter got the highest rating in PC Gamer. I think that was the magazine back then.
Probably.
Ever.
Because game ratings in magazines mean so much.
Yeah, but at the same time, like they're in that upper echelon, like people were really hesitant to give like the top ratings in case something better came out. The game that beat it, that dethroned it, was it re-released on CD.
Mm-hmm.
The only complaint we had about these GOG packages is that re-release, not the re-release and not the original, but the middle re-release on CD was literally the best, most perfect iterations of these games ever.
Yeah, see, people don't realize, nowadays, when a game comes out, there's usually not versions of the game anymore, right? The game gets patched, so you're always at the newest version.
Yeah,
right?
no
And
one's
the
playing like Counter-Strike Go,
Right.
1.8.
And the patch differences aren't usually noticeable other than bug fixes, except in fighting games where they change the rules. And usually there's just DLCs adding stuff to a game. You don't get like complete upgrades of games anymore unless they're old games getting HD remakes, right?
Yeah.
So like Nintendo will be like, Wind Waker HD remake.
But they took TIE Fighter.
Back in the day, the computer technology was advancing so quickly that even a game that was a year old, like Doom, they just came out with Doom again and then Doom again. It wasn't just like one copy, they kept re-releasing it and making improvements to it. Especially, there wasn't really internet then.
Yeah.
You couldn't download.
Do you know how I got Doom? I was literally at a convention, and for $1, I bought a set of floppy disks that had Doom.
Right, so you could, when they patched a game, how did they patch the game? Well, I mean, you could send in to get floppies or something, but mostly it's just you didn't get the patch.
I sent
if you went and
letters.
bought the game again, you would get a newer version than your friend who bought the game a couple months ago.
I got a floppy disk in the mail once that was a patch to Fantasy Empires.
Yeah, like the copy of Doom that I bought, I got Doom 1 on CD, not floppy.
Whoa,
And
youngin', young motherfucker.
It had the extra episode.
CD.
It had the extra episode.
Yeah, I got that later, but CD?
Yeah, well, because what happened is originally, right, I got Doom 1 just sort of copied from someone else on floppy. But then when I bought Doom 1, it was already the extra episode edition with the episode 4, whatever it was.
One of the first for serious games that I got and played a lot was actually XCOM, and I didn't know software piracy was a thing. A friend of mine was like, "Oh, hey, I got a computer too." It was like a nerd guy I met at Space Camp. He was like, "Oh, here's some floppies. There's a game. You should try it." And it was just XCOM with no instruction manual.
Yep.
Years later, I was like, "Oh, that's a game you could buy in the store for money." Oh.
Star Control 2, you needed that chart.
Yep. Quest for Glory 2, you needed that giant map.
Yep.
So the CD, when they re-released TIE Fighter, they doubled the resolution of the renderer to 640 by 480. That is a
Holy shit.
huge fucking
That's
difference.
way low res for these days, but the difference is phenomenal between the
Yeah. And they finished the voice acting, so everything has voice acting.
And the music is the best.
Yep, it's still the iMuse system, so it's MIDI and it's dynamic. Like, it changes. The only game that's done it as well.
Tribes 2.
Yes, as iMuse was Tribes 2. Like, no games do it that well. They have, like, really simple cues. Tribes would, like, change some of the loops depending on specific things that were going on nearby you. iMuse did similar things. Like, missiles are coming at you, the music get more and more intense. You feel like you're in Star Wars. So, if you Regardless, I don't care if you played these games or not. Get this edition. There is literally no reason not to get and
You
play.
have $5. I mean, come on. And you care about enough about video games that you're listening to this, and you care enough about Star Wars because you're a nerd, and if you don't, what the hell?
I can't. TIE Fighter
And you have
is,
$5 because you can afford a device on which to listen to a podcast. So you've got $5. Buy this.
TIE Fighter is one of the best games ever.
Is it $5? How much is it?
I don't know how much it is.
Let me check.
And it's also like it was the peak of a genre that died almost immediately after it. Like, it's a genre that is dead, and yet the peak of that genre is one of the best video games ever made.
Let me just check the
Looking
price.
up the price.
Checking the price.
Checking the price. So while you're checking the price, I've been playing a lot of Civ 5 because I've been flying a lot, and modern airplanes usually, at least when you're flying overseas, just have holes. So I can just plug my laptop in. So kind of want to play Civ against humans. And I figured out how to make Pit Boss go, and I figured out all that shit. So if you guys want to play a big game of Civ 5 in the coming weeks, I'm going to try to do a few, like, let's play multiplayer for 4 hours just so everyone's kind of like getting pumped and getting into it. And then I'm probably going to start a big, for real Pit Boss game of Civ 5, with the play-by-mail, like take your turn, whatever, and we'll just see where it goes.
GOG's website is really bad on mobile. It like basically doesn't even work.
Dude, I would pay $40.
And that's a fancy new website too. That's pretty shameful.
I would pay $40 if it's not $40. It's way less than that. But I would pay $40 or $50 for this game today. I paid like 60 at least when I bought it originally.
Yeah.
Things of the day. So when I was a kid in high school, in Science Olympiad, there's an event where you got points for like making a giant complex Rube Goldberg machine. And for many years in a row, they changed the rules every year because we, meaning my high school and middle school team, would look at the rules, find a loophole, and pull some like game-breaking bullshit, get the first place, and then they changed the rules to specifically disallow the thing we did. Like one year...
Much like the TSA.
Yep. Like originally, like one of the rules, it was just every time you transfer between two types of energy, and it had like these broad categories of energy, like chemical, mechanical, electromagnetic, like all these different things. So we made a Rube Goldberg machine, and timing was the end. So it had to finish in a precise amount of time, like 2 minutes, and like raise a flag or ring a bell at another point along the way, like 1 minute. So the first machine we made a mechanical clock with a pendulum that ticked down exactly 1 minute and then exactly 1 more minute in parallel to a really fast and super complex Rube Goldberg machine that finished in like 30 seconds. And then just primed the clock to do its 1 minute and 2 minute. So we didn't have to do any timing for shit. And our machine was a series of like 20, it was an electric motor connected to another electric motor, connected to another electric motor, and our scoring chart was electrical to mechanical to electrical to mechanical to electrical to mechanical to electrical to mechanical, big old fucking battery at the end, and we definitely broke every spirit of those rules to win that first place. There's a trend that continued year to year to year, and when I was in high school, like senior year, when I was a little older, I needed a reaction where two clear chemicals would interact and become opaque via
Do you have like a laser sensor going through?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it had to be a chemical reaction. It couldn't be turbidity. It couldn't be it had to be a chemical reaction.
Well, you could always just find like some sort of acid or base and then pour in the stuff that turns pink in an acid or base.
No, because so there's a lot of reasons for that. It had to turn opaque, not translucent.
This turned sort of dark pink, depending on how much you
No,
pour
but
in.
it was still translucent. It had to be opaque.
You could have some starchy water and pour in some iodine.
That is not the same kind of reaction.
All right.
So I remember like I was flipping through a chemistry book because I never took chemistry in high school. I took it at the local community college. So I'm flipping through the high school chemistry book, and then I kind of I noticed the cover, and I pull the book cover off, and the cover is a picture of two clear chemicals going into a beaker and turning a bright, opaque yellow. So there was no Google really that worked back then. So I was like trying to figure out what this reaction was, and I couldn't figure it out. I wrote to the publisher, like they never responded. So I went to the chemistry teacher, even the college
Last
chemistry
resort
guy.
chemistry teacher.
Yeah, so I go to him because I didn't take chemistry, like I didn't know him. So I go to him and I'm like, so what is this reaction? He's like, I don't know, but I'm going to fucking find out. So he comes back to me like a month later and he'd figured it out. There are 2 reactions that do that, and he couldn't find many other reactions that did it. And the 2 reactions are either a cadmium sulfide reaction. Cadmium sulfide is toxic as shit. Or a lead chromate reaction. Lead chromate is toxic as shit.
It's lead. It's toxic.
No, the lead is the least of your worries. I'll link to this reaction, but Jesus. So I was like, so he's like, so why do you want to know? That's cool. And I was like, I explained that I needed it for the thing. And he said, oh, awesome. And he gave me a card that I could use to go to the lab checkout thing. And I got all the stuff to do the lead chromate reaction. And we totally used it in our thing, despite it being actually like pretty fucking toxic and dangerous.
We didn't drink it.
No, but you like inhaling it, getting like, it's not something to play around with. I'll link to it. So we did the thing and it worked. And then in the, in the scoring, the guy scoring us says, oh, so that reaction, what is the actual reaction? So I explain it to him and he says, really? And I say, yes. And he says, you're disqualified. You're not allowed to do something that dangerous here. This is like high school science Olympiad. Like, what's wrong with you? Where did you even get this stuff? And my thing of the day is that just recently there's been a breakthrough. There is a new way to do this reaction that is not toxic using bismuth vanadate.
Okay.
This video explains...
That sounds less scary.
This video explains the
no
deal.
lead involved.
And it's this guy. It's that awesome Sir Polyakov.
Yeah.
Our favorite guy. He explains it and he's like, it's pretty much not toxic. Like, I'm not saying you should eat it, but if you had to choose between eating it or lead chromate, you want to eat this thing.
I'm going to not eat the lead chromate. You can have the lead chromate rim. I'll take.
So I was watching this video and then I remembered like this whole odyssey of high school Olympiad. So I give you this video, enjoy it, and now you can turn 2 clear liquids into an opaque yellow pigment.
Okay.
Without getting cancer or dying.
Or getting disqualified from the Science Olympiad.
Yes. So you got a thing of the day?
So here is some sort of town city council meeting somewhere, whatever. It seems like the mayor, whoever the person in charge is, gets up and goes to the bathroom, and it like the second in charge person, she starts discussing what seems to be a legit issue, and she's talking about
MRSA.
Yeah, like bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics and how they're starting to spread in their neighborhood. She knows people who are getting MRSA and other, horrible C. diff and whatnots. And how they're going to basically say, hey, federal government, they're going to ask the federal government for money to help with this problem, right? Because it's a serious problem. And it is. And she's right. So, but that's not what the video's about. The video is about the guy who got up because he didn't need to listen to this part. And he went to the bathroom. And he left his microphone on.
Oh, just like Homer Simpson.
And that's all there is to it.
I think the best part about it is, she just starts losing it, like in the middle of this very
But
serious...
she continues discussing her very serious issue.
But she...
Also, it's funny that there's someone who's opposing her. It's like, why would you oppose this? Do you want people to die? What's wrong with you?
I'll bet it was Republicans.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know which side these people are on.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I could
small
guess.
town, who gives a shit?
Yeah. Small town politics...
The bathroom part's the important part.
Is the only thing worse than big town politics.
There's a few people in that meeting.
Yeah. It's sad that there aren't more, but at the same time, I understand why there aren't more, because I'm not in the local...
How many are you going to?
I tried to go to a bunch in Beacon, but the fucking old people in town always made them at like 1 o'clock on Wednesday, so people with jobs couldn't go.
I was in the park once, and someone comes up to me and is like, usually I'm just like giving them the New York ignore, but they were way pushy. They're like, where do you live? Where do you live? Do you live around here? And I'm like, no, I live in Astoria, because I was in like Greenpoint. And they were like, if you're lying to me, I got to let you know that in that building right now is like a meeting discussing the participatory budgeting. You really got to go.
Oh, someone like that grabbed Emily and was like, oh, you got to fucking do this. And she was, again, like super skep, like, But yeah, that thing's legit.
No, it's a real thing, but it's like, I don't have to go and sit in this boring meeting right now in a neighborhood I don't live in.
Yeah.
Get away from me. I told you no. And then another person tried to push me, and I'm like, when they said, I learned the lesson, right? They're like, "Do you live from here?"
And
I was
you're like,
"No." I'm like, "No, I'm from Connecticut."
yeah.
Whatever.
I'm just like, Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Of course, that can fuck you in some places.
The second person was a lot less pushy, though.
No. In the meta moment, the booklet book is still Watership Down. It's an epic story of rabbits. We don't have any conventions or anything until Kineticon. It's nice and chill now. We can relax. PAX badges are sold the fuck out, so...
You had about an hour to get them.
Yup, and you had about 52 seconds to get good hotels or Saturday badges. And that's pretty much it. Like, follow all our internet shit, and now that the hiatuses are done, while it's sunny and we're going to be biking a lot, there's also going to be a lot more Geeknights content. I'm chewing through the backlog of video editing.
There you go.
So, a secret to win a fortune in games where numbers are foretold.
Ooh.
Cut with a scissor small slips of paper, on each of which you should write a number. You should make as many numbers as you wish. Put all of these slips in a large box such that the numbers are facing down. Take a spider. First, trap it in a glass bottle for a half hour, then smash it, and
Why
with
are
the
you
magic
reading this
wand,
nonsense?
say mihi prancit numera per de... So... What did Kotaku describe this as a mildly satanic video game that you can only play online with real money.
That's true. So, Jason Rohrer, a person we are a big fan of, you may know him from such games as
Passage,
Sleep is Death, which
Yep.
people don't know. Sleep is Death is this 2-player sort of RPG thing where one person can take any action they want, really, and then the response is another person manually doing the pixels in response to whatever that person does. It's really amazing and overlooked. Diamond Trust of London,
Yep.
Castle Doctrine,
super smart dude.
many other games, and his current game that he's working on is Cordial Minuet, which I have been playing. We've talked about it before. We talked about it in our PAX South
Yep,
podcast.
I've started playing it too.
We talked about it, I think, a little bit before then. But now it is officially released 100%, totally, and I've been playing it for quite a while, on and off. I have a very high ELO ranking, but I haven't made a lot of money because I don't take risks in big money games.
I haven't played it as much, but I
win when I do play.
I've been playing 1 to 2 orders of magnitude higher stakes than Scott.
Probably less games.
Yeah, I've been betting ones of dollars.
I've been betting ones of cents and tens of cents. One time I played a big dollar game, like $4 or $5, I lost, and another time I played a big game, $4 or $5, I won, and I'm around $19 and change, and I put in $20 to start. So I'm down profit-wise, but my ELO ranking is like 6th or 8th place or something.
Yeah,
I win a lot of games. They're just so low money, they can't make up for my losing that $1 game a long time ago.
I put in $15. I'm at like $13.80 right now.
I gotta play some games against Rim where he
Yeah.
bets like a couple bucks, and then I can just get back up into the profit zone.
Yeah, we'll see though. What if I win?
Right. So this game here is basically how this game works. Imagine if you're playing rock, paper, scissors, but the rock, paper, scissors was not equal. Like rock won 40% of the time, and scissors was 20% of the time, and paper was the rest of it, right? But not only that, there's a lot more than 3 choices. There's like 12 choices. Well, there's 6 choices really, but you give 1 to you and 1 to your opponent, and then you do it again.
1, 2,
of
1
the
for you,
remaining 4
1, 2
choices,
for me.
and then the remaining 2 choices, 1 for you and 1 for them. And wherever the intersections are is the score, and the higher score wins. And you bet after every move, just like poker, and you see who wins, you get the monies. And that's what this game is.
Yeah, this is a game of perfect skill and perfect arbitrary. It's a game where you bang your brain against someone else, and based on the combined decisions you two make, one of you wins a bunch of money. You have to bet real money to play.
Real cash money.
There is no tutorial. There is no way to play.
There's a video that gives you a tutorial.
Yeah, but there's no playable tutorial unless you put money in.
There's a YouTube video tutorial. And the way it works is you put real cash money in with your credit card. It goes into Jason Rohrer's bank account where it collects interest or who knows what, right? And he gives you digital money with which to play the game, which you can withdraw at any time, of course, into real money again. And then you play the game with the digital real money. And when you create a game or join a game, the value of the game is already set. So if you might see like someone wants to play a 10-cent game, you click on it, you're now playing a 10-cent game. Or you can say start a game, and you can set the amount of money for the game equal to or less than the amount of money you have in the virtual bank.
Yep.
Then both players go into that game with 100 chips. You can leave the game. If you leave the game early, you give the person the ante for the next game, round that you didn't play. So leaving means losing some amount of chips. But each chip is worth 1/200th of the initial pot. So if you play a $2 game, each chip is exactly 1 cent, right? And after the first round, you're forced to bet 1 chip, both players. So even if you fold immediately, you lose that 1 chip.
So then I pick a row for you and I pick a row for me, and then it reveals the row that the other person picked for you, but not the row they picked for themselves.
Right. So I pick a row for them, and they pick a row for me. So I see the intersection of the row I picked for myself and the row they picked for me, and I know the value that I have. It's some number on this grid, this magic square.
Yep,
right?
and we do it 3 times, so you and them each score 3 boxes.
Right. So you know which possibilities they have. It gets narrowed down over time, but you're never 100% sure until the very, very end what their exact number is.
And along the way...
And if they play well, they can set it up such to where when you look at what possible numbers they could have very high or they could have very low, but all your values are sort of stuck in the middle. So so it's like they know whether they're beating you or not, but you don't know. You just know that, 50-50, they're beating me, they're losing. I don't know.
So in between every one of these, after it's revealed how many points you got, then you can simultaneously bet more money.
So the betting is tricky, right? It's not like poker where it goes around. You bet without knowing what they're betting, and those chips that you bet go in.
Well, no, whoever bid less has to either match what the other person bid or fold.
But let's say I bid 10 and you bid 20, right?
Then you have an opportunity.
I might fold on 20, but I lose those 10 because I didn't get to see that you put in the 20 until my 10 were already taken away from me.
Yep.
So now my choice is, put 10 more or fold. As opposed to in poker where it would be Rim would put in 20, I would get the information, then my turn I fold. It's a simultaneous bet.
So if you make it all the way to the end and neither player is folded, then the last choice is you choose one of your score boxes to reveal to the other person.
Right. So once you get after that final reveal of that final number, right? Even though you're not choosing, you already know your final score. They know theirs.
Yep.
Right. That final reveal sometimes doesn't matter based on the numbers that have been played, but that final reveal now you know they have one of 2 possible scores. It narrows it down that much before all betting is over.
I have once or twice gotten someone to not fold and bet a bunch by revealing a surprisingly low number.
Well, if someone reveals a low number, right?
It caps their max possible score.
Obviously, but you can see plainly if they reveal a low number and they have a high possible score left, it's because they were hiding their big numbers, obviously, right? If they reveal a high number and you look at their possible scores, and there's a really low possibility, it's like, they revealed the high number to create this divergent appearance.
So I get the impression that a lot of people who play this game, at least at the very low stakes, because there's another clever thing the game does.
Don't know what's going on.
The game has a really clever, score description UI element on the right that sort of shows all the mathematically possible numbers that your opponent could think you have that are possible in any fashion, and it shows you every possible score that the opponent could have based on the information you have. So basically, it removes a reasonable percentage of the tedious calculation you'd have to do to be good at this game.
There are still some things you have to do, though. It's like it does so much calculation for you, but there's still more, right?
It does the most boring calculations. You can focus on the more interesting stuff.
Right, so you can hover over numbers on the grid with your mouse, and it will give you information if you know how to read it, such as what would the possibilities be if this number became yours? Right? So it's like, if I got this number, my score would be this, and my opponent would see these possibilities, right? So you can sort of see a turn into the future, what the possibilities are to help you decide what to pick. And it's very, very interesting that way, because it's actually something people don't realize. This is the first basic strategy of the game. It is possible, and in fact, it happens in a somewhat surprising percentage of the games I play. In fact, I'd say maybe 25% of the rounds, in which before the final pick, so after the second reveal, if you look at the grid and study it, you can easily figure out I can do it in about 20 seconds at this point, right? I can figure out whether or not it is definitely 100% guaranteed that I'll win or lose. It's like after the second reveal, so the third picks haven't even been made, but you can, at that point, oftentimes determine with this board and this configuration, no matter what pick they make and no matter what pick I make in the third pick, I'm going to lose or I'm going to win no matter what. And at that point, if you make that calculation and figure out it's one of those rounds, you can either A, fold immediately because you know you've lost no matter what,
Yep.
or B, just go all in because they haven't realized it yet, most likely, right? And if they know, if they're as good as you, they were going to fold right then anyway, no matter what you bet. So you might as well go all in instead of 10 or 20.
That's one thing I've noticed.
And if they don't know any better, well, I mean, maybe you could have lured them in with a lower bet. I don't know.
In a higher stakes game, if I just go all in, most of the time my opponent folds very, very quickly.
Well, that's because they got a shitty score, right?
Yeah, but I'll go all in
Bluffing
like semi-randomly, and people almost always fold.
Bluffing in this game is huge, right? Because if you can get a bluff win, you can get way out ahead of your opponent really fast. Because if you have the upper hand in chips, you are in a very strong position to just take the rest of theirs regardless of what gets picked, right? Because you can start raising on every round no matter what. And if they don't have a good hand, it's like they have to fold because if they go for it, they just lose everything they have left. They've only got like 20 chips left, right? They need to win on like an all-in to get back into the game. So if you have the upper hand in chips, you can just bully your opponent a lot. So that, gives that kind of strong strategy there, regardless of the picking that goes on.
Yeah. But in general, like just playing this game, it's surprisingly addictive.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that
And not
feeling...
because you want to win the real money.
No.
Right? I'm paying for 10 cents. I don't give a shit. It's not like I'm in a casino.
It's a pure game theory game. Like this
There
is
is
the kind
nothing
of
in my
game-
mind that has like like you go into a casino and you pull a slot machine, which can be addictive to even the smartest person. And it's like, but that's because you have in your mind this fantasy of like, ooh, this jackpot might come out.
But this time I'm just thinking...
There's no fantasy of a jackpot coming out.
Like
ooh,
I'm trying
10
to do
cents.
like a poor man's Minimax in my head. Like I'm trying to like do the, which cup should I pick? Should I bluff?
Well, some people use spreadsheets. Some people wrote their own client apps even, right? To sort of, because it's just an open, there's no copyright in the code, right? Everything's on the server. It's like you can just write your own client. You can just look at all the source code.
Yeah, what
or
did
whatever.
Jason say? We asked him something at PAX, like, does he care if people like try to write bots to solve it with game theory?
There
And
was
he
a
said,
bot.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I still make a cut. Like, I don't care. Go nuts.
Yeah, that's the thing. So every round of the game, so you go into a game against someone, and as long as no one leaves, you're playing until one person holds all the remaining chips. Now, each round that you play, when the pot pays out, Jason Rohrer takes one chip. So if you're playing like really going against someone and he goes deep into the game round after round after round and no one's won yet, he's taking more and more chips away out of that game and he's happy times. He's getting more monies, right? Like imagine if you're playing a big time game, thousands of dollars, each one of those chips is only 1/200th. So if you play a $2,000 game, each chip is like $10.
But at the same time,
so he's making
$10
$10 every round, and also the ante increases every round. So if I play against Rim, we play a grid, right? We must ante one chip. We can obviously go all in right away; it doesn't matter. But we're putting in at least one chip each. Then the next round, 2. Then the next 3. Then 4. Then 5. So the deeper you get in, you can't play conservatively because you're basically forced to bet like, is the 20th round against this guy? I have to put in 20 chips. Right? So it gets really rough if you're just like, if you fall behind a little bit and start playing conservatively just to hold on, folding a lot. Because eventually it's like, well, I got the 1 on the first go, fold. I just lost like 20 chips. Fuck. Right? It's like you have to play aggressively and really go after your opponent no matter what you've got going on. But it's hard to do, like I said before, when you have low chips. You can't go after someone who's betting a lot because you're basically staking it all on that one game suddenly.
Whoa, random aside, looks like a bulb buzz exploded.
No. It was
On the way to Boston, too. It's the one we would usually take.
No.
Look at that. It literally just exploded.
Wow.
Bam!
Was people on it?
I think they ran off the bus. I can't tell what's going on.
Whoa.
Wow.
And I was so safe.
Whoa, look at that.
I was having such good times on this safe Bolt bus, but maybe
Yeah, you want this to be you?
maybe I should stop taking the Bolt bus.
Amtrak's not that much more expensive.
That's the first accident Bolt bus has ever had.
I think they've had a couple more.
I don't know, but that's actually.
I was stuck on a Bolt bus
At
for
least
like
it wasn't.
6 hours
It wasn't like
once.
a crash accident, right? It was just the bus. I thought those were well maintained. I guess I've been lied to.
I don't think any coach buses are well maintained.
So sad.
First comment. Yeah, Fenghua still looks bad. Anyway, that was an aside. That's a New York aside.
Right.
Because we use the Bolt bus to go to PAX's.
So now you know that Rim just reads the internets while he's doing the show here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other things going on in this game, right? So the theme of the game is sort of like this dark underground,
Like satanic, like you've been
satanic
invited into a secret society because you
secret gambling den.
you know
underground.
things.
Yeah, ooh, conspiracy.
Well, I mean, like we talked about in our PAX show, his booth at PAX was like this gypsy, like mystery gambling den.
That's
in
a
little
racist
tent.
word. Racist.
No, it looked like a gypsy camp. It was cool.
Gypsy's a racist word. It should be like a Romani tent.
Yeah, but I don't want to impose this satanic gambling game upon the actual Romani people.
That's why, but it's just the tent was in their stylings.
But
it's actually a
inside-
tent in the style of the fortune teller from Link to the Past.
But inside, it was like this cyberpunk dystopia with these like raw LCD monitors with like ribbon cables coming out of them to play the game on.
Yep, this is the style of the game accounts for a lot. If it was just a boring like Minesweeper grid, you wouldn't really be wanting to play this.
Yeah, the game, like it had, and he's made,
the gong that
we
happens
do a
when
lot
a
of
round
lectures
starts.
about like game design and UX and all these things. Jason Rohrer is one of the few people on earth where I have really nothing bad at all to say about any of his works.
And all his works are like completely new and ingenious and fresh, and
like,
unlike
all the
any other
things-
thing that came before them.
All the things that I make tired complaints about with other games, like he's got that shit down flawlessly. Like simple little things, like he uses the metaphor of like paper in the game, right? Like it's a piece of parchment and you put ink on it. Like green ink shows the place you took, and red ink shows the other person's. And the ink never goes away. Like it doesn't preview showing you ink when you're making your decision. You move a marker outside the board, ink is permanent on the paper.
Yep.
Little things like that. The UI and the UX are so consistent and just so well thought out in these very nuanced ways.
So let's talk about some basic strategies. So the most basic strategy there is to give your opponent the row that has the lowest possible number. Basically, keep their score down, right? So you know the maximum score they could have. Meanwhile, pick for yourself either you can figure out your opponent's behavior, and therefore you know they're going to pick the shittiest row for you, so pick the highest number of the shittiest row.
See, you already went one step beyond your first heuristic just there.
Or just pick a row with high variance. If you pick a row with high variance, you're mathematically speaking, because all the rows and columns add up to the same number. It's a magic square, right?
Yeah.
So you can sort of pick a row with high variance, and it's like you might get a really low score, you might get a really high score, but your opponent sees both possibilities because you picked a row with high variance. So the result of that is you're keeping your opponent's score down, so they don't have a big number to be confident with that they're going to beat you. And when they look at your possibilities, it's like, well, could be big, could be small. You might have 6, you might have 100. They don't freaking know, right? It's like sort of a coin toss for them, which makes them nervous. And then you can convince them with your betting. If you are being contained by your opponent sort of into this middle of the road score, it's like, well, you might win with that if you can force them into a really shitty score. But you don't have how do you have the confidence to bet when they could have a really high score and they're betting big? It's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So that's the most basic of strategies. There are other strategies. For example, let's say you see a row and that row has like 36 and 34 in it, like these two big numbers. Like 36 is the biggest number on the grid, right? It's a 6x6 grid, 1 to 36. You don't want them to get to 36. They're probably going to win with that unless you give them two really crappy numbers to go with it. But because it has the 36 and another over 30 number, that row, the rest of the numbers are going to be really shitty. So it's like, well, if they pick this row, I'd give them this row. If they pick randomly, they have a 4 out of 6 chance of getting something really, really shitty, right? So I'll give them that. And maybe they'll get lucky and get the one of the two that are over 30. but most likely 4 out of 6 chance they're going to get a really bad number.
Yeah.
And if they're stuck with that, well, they're probably gonna fold right away if I bet a little bit, or who knows what, right? So you can give them that kind of row, bet, and if they see you or they bet also, you can be pretty sure they got one of those 30s, unless they're really, really smart, betting it up when they've got a shitty number.
Of course, then you use that. If you assume that they got like the 30, then you know that they can't use that row again.
Yep.
In the next 2 rounds.
See, they pick a row. They've eliminated all these other possibilities from the game. So, you give them this row, and the good number in that row is 36, right? And let's say you're pretty sure they got the 36. Well, if you're pretty sure about that, then you know that in these other numbers across the board, they can't get those on the second pick. And you see that they've eliminated, by picking the 36, they've eliminated like the 28 from this other choice. It's like, well, I'll give you that row that no longer has a 28 in it, because the rest of the numbers aren't that great.
So I found...
And then they give you a row. So they give you a row, and now it's like, well, they gave me that row, which means they didn't take it for themselves. So they can't possibly have any of those numbers, and they've eliminated the 30 from that one. So I'll give them that one that no longer has a 30 in it and has really shitty numbers remaining.
Now, I found that one of the strategies I use in low-stakes games that seems highly effective is I kind of assume my opponent's dumb and has a pretty simple strategy. So I move quickly, and the first round, I assume that they're going to do something dumb, like they're going for the 36. Like, these there's like the really simplest heuristics.
Baby mode.
So assuming someone's dumb and doing that, I maximize the harm to them by making that choice. And then... it's immediately obvious if that works in the first round, then I play super aggressively and super fast and bid a lot, and I just kind of bowl them over and win.
A lot of the game is figuring out, because if you just try to play randomly, rock, paper, scissors wise, right, that is not going to work, right? In rock, paper, scissors, you want to play randomly. Why? Because all 3 choices are equally powerful.
Now, you do still want to play randomly, but you want to play with a mixed strategy. You want to play like...
Right, not all strategies in this game are equally powerful. Right? There's a really strong rock and sort of a weaker scissor, and
all choices
kind of
are not equal. So a mixed strategy would be like 60% of the time I'm going to, not choose the row with the 36 because reasons. I'm going to use this other kind of row in my first pick.
Yeah.
Or like 20% of the time, I'll choose a low variance row in the first round.
But because the board is different, the actual variance numbers change round to round.
That is true.
Sometimes boards are just unfavorable to one or the other player.
But
or sometimes you can look at a board from turn 1 and be like, oh, wow, I can just totally corral them in no matter what they pick. Right? It's like, in order for them to beat these picks, they would have to make that pick, but then picks 2 and 3, they're hosed. So, and if they don't pick that on turn 1, they're hosed anyway. This board is just good for me. I'll just bet it way up on the first pick.
Yeah. Like, sometimes what I'll do is, if there's a row that has very little variance and it's all just like middle of the road numbers, sometimes what I'll do is I'll give that to myself on the first round, because they can't hurt me.
They can't hose you out on the first round.
And then the choices, like making my choice and doing my calculation for the next 2 rounds, super easy at that point, because there's so few decisions left to make. So I can think of it in terms of 2-row choices, high score, low score, like these positions, and I can sort of, based on their behavior, figure out like, oh, they tend to, when they're behind, do this kind of thing.
Yep. It's all about, figuring, because your opponent is always a human being, right? They have some sort of logic. You can always also think, what would I do if I were them? And there's situations where it's not just poison cup, because the math unbalances the poison cup. It's like, wow, they would be stupid to make this pick because they just lose if they make that pick. So really, they're only making one of these 2 choices. Which one would I make if I was them? Based on their past behavior in previous rounds, which one are they likely to pick? Oh, look, if I pick this row, that's kind of hoses them on either of those 2 choices. I have to pick that one, and I'll get this one. And then it usually turns out that you're right. And you'll see that the other players can also do this to you. You'll often see, like, in the last round, when there's only like 2, there's only like 2 numbers, 2 columns left, because there's only 2 things to pick. You'll see, like, there'll be one row where there's only 2 shitty numbers available. And it's like, they're going to give me that one, aren't they? I'm going to get a shitty number now, no matter what, right? Right? And yes, 9 times out of 10, that shitty row that only had 2 shitty numbers left goes to you, and it didn't matter what you picked.
However, if they don't do that, like if they do...
Well, the only way they wouldn't do that is if they had given themselves that row already in one of the earlier 2 picks.
Yep.
But if they're a good player, they haven't. They knew that's how it was going to work. And those other 2 numbers that you've taken in that row, they know those have already been eaten
What I was
up.
getting at
They
is
can
if
tell.
someone makes like an obviously dumb decision more than once, they're a keeper. And I'm playing this game to the end.
It's all about figuring out your opponent's behavior in those early rounds.
If
and
someone
taking
seems
full
super
advantage of
smart
it.
in the early rounds,
No
a lot
matter
of
how
times-
smart you are, there is some pattern to your behavior and some strategy, because if you don't have any kind of strategy, if you play super randomly, you will just lose to someone who plays sort of the greatest win percentage chance rows.
Yep.
If you can just play the best chance of winning rows against a random bot, and you will come out on top, like money-wise, 60% or something like that. So you cannot just play randomly. You have to have some sort of... You have to at least play best odds of winning choices, if no other kind of choice. But if you play best odds of winning, and your opponent knows you always play best odds of winning, they can just destroy you. You have to mix it up, and therefore it forces you to do Poison Cup with math added onto it, not just straight Poison Cup.
So it's super fun, and you should probably put put like $5 in.
There's no reason to spend a lot of money. You can play penny games.
Yeah.
Right?
Think of that $5 as that's what you paid for the game.
Right, and just don't lose all your money.
And just try it out.
If you have problems with gambling, there are places you can call for that.
It's
You
an
should.
interesting
Gambling is not good.
experience. There aren't other games like it.
No, that's for sure.
And I'm curious if anyone's going to put any like game theory math behind it to try to come up with an optimal play strategy.
Right. Also, it just came out now. It's hot now. There's like a launch contest now. If you're gonna play it now, because this is the kind of game that could easily not have any players after some amount of time.
Also, poker. If poker gets really popular like 1 month because there's a big thing on TV, that's when you want to play a bunch of poker because a whole bunch of noobs are playing poker.
Yep.
You're going to get some money out of them. You don't want to play poker when the only people in the room are all wearing sunglasses and are obviously poker pros. Just leave.
Yeah. Also, the forum for this game, you need to go there. If you're playing it more than just once to see what it is, go and sign up for the forum for this game and read the threads. There is important information in there to learn a lot of things. Many things need to be learned from those forums. Many discussions, leaderboards, all sorts of stuff that if you want to make any sort of winning strategy, you need to go check that out and see what other people are talking about.
And in a closing note, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night raised $70,000 more since we mentioned it on the show earlier.
Well,
I've been watching this tally count up.
I mean, people will pay a lot of money just for an original copy of Symphony of the Night on a disc. Why wouldn't they pay $28 for a digital copy of modern, probably
A lot of people are
equally or
backing
almost
this
as good game?
at high levels too.
Well, they really like.
I mean, 8 people gave him $2,000.
What do you get for $2,000?
What do you get for $2,000? You get
The game, I hope.
Runic Forging. I guess that's the name of that thing.
Okay.
Collaborate with the development team to create an in-game weapon.
All right, that's cool.
Oh, that'd be cool. I would make some like bullshit little stabby dagger.
I would make throwing weapons because they don't get used enough, but I'd make a throwing weapon that's actually used a lot.
Well, like in Dawn of Sorrow, my go-to, as soon as I got all the good weapons, I'd always have, because the 2 hands, I'd have the slowest, most fucking damage, like the giant axe, and then my other weapon is the fastest, weakest weapon.
You know what I would do is I would make
else.
a bow and arrow or crossbow that could actually be fired rapidly in all 8 directions, but was strong enough to matter, but not ridiculously strong. So you'd be better off using an unwieldy weapon for just damage.
Yeah.
But it would really be good to use in a lot of those rooms where bad guys come from all sorts of directions if you have skills, because you could actually hit them as opposed to trying to like dodge out of the way so you could hit him with your clumsy sword. That's what I would do. Like a metal blade, basically.
Yeah, you and your Metal Blade. Metal Blade was way OP.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Less powerful than Metal Blade, though, but still with the directions and the control.
This This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.